but nah.
Gary,
she looks at me and
Gary,
she says,
Gary,
"That's not a knife."
Gary,
What?
Gary,
Are we on?
we're
Okay,
on.
I'm sorry. I thought we were doing
Yeah,
other things.
we counted down and everything. You just
Okay.
started talking nonsense.
Good morning. It's Sunday, and it's time to jump into the rotation here at Ybor City, where it all began.
Oh shit! Oh, there's so much going on this morning.
See, wasn't that easy? All I did is get your head on right.
You know, you still didn't get the intro right, so don't even start with me. And so our special guest in the studio today, you notice we're a little cramped in here. First off, we got Kano in here.
Yep.
And I'm sorry I'm a little sweaty there, Chris, but getting everything set up and the hot lights and stuff. But what's up, Chris?
LEDs, dude.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Chris from Magical Butter.
What's up, man?
What's up? Good to be here, out here in beautiful Ybor City.
Bro, so this is like a full circle. Like so many things of this show is full circle because, like, you remember when me and Keno were working for that marijuana school?
I totally remember that.
Me too.
Long time ago.
And then you guys were nice enough to, like, I don't know, like right now, like you're like head of Magical Butter, right? What's your title?
Chief Communication Officer.
Chief Communications Officer. And at the time we met you, you were just sales, right? Like, what were you doing?
Yeah, sales rep, customer service.
So you kind of jumped up through the company through all this time, right? Yeah. And back when we were doing the marijuana school, way back in the day, I fucking feel old as fuck talking about it. But back when we were doing the marijuana school, medical marijuana in Tampa, you guys were nice enough to help us set up like a cooking class, and you set us up where each student could get a magical butter machine. And look at you, bro. You're still here helping us out, helping out NORML, sponsoring our events and stuff like that. Like, look at you, man.
Look at you, bro. Still here. You set up shop. I'm so proud of everything, all the work you guys have done. And yeah, we've really all grown together over the years from the different events and the Women's Grow events. And
yeah, I remember those.
We've done pop-up shops here in Chillum, educating people how to use the magical butter machine. And yeah, back then at the school, it was all about the education as well, and incorporating that the magical butter process into the edibles.
That's one thing that I know is so important for your company, for magical butter, for its education. A lot of people, like, quite honestly, if somebody comes to me and says, how do I make this, right? Typically the answer comes, it's like Magical Butter already has a video out on it. You may want to go check out their YouTube channel and really get like the step-by-step knowledge going on there. So Magical Butter, where are you guys at today? What's in store for us for the future? What's happening? I know you guys did some rebranding recently.
Yeah, man. It's where are we not today is the question. We've expanded internationally. I think we're looking for going to the next galaxy, hopping on one of these spaceships soon.
You gotta be rich to do that, though.
And that's something that's actually kind of like, whenever I travel, it seems like I turn a corner at a cannabis event, and then all of a sudden you like pop up.
Boom. It's always good to see you like in another place. But yeah, we've ran into each other several times out west, and but yeah, we've expanded into the EU, Australia, South America, Latin America, Mexico. It's a lot of things are changing globally, and Magical Butter's been a part of that. And
so when I was going through business school, there was a class I had to take where it was like an international business class talking about different cultures and whatnot. Can you tell me, and there's a lot of challenging things about doing business overseas, right? So can you tell me, like, what's the most challenging thing in a different country to sell magical butter?
Yeah, good question.
So I think logistics in general become challenging, but we've got it figured out. Like Germany is a good central hub for the EU.
There's very good right now.
A lot of countries that touch, and you can get shipments, quickly to the other nations of the EU. The Brexit made things challenging. We were servicing all of EU through the UK originally, and
wow.
So yeah, there's challenges. Taxes and those things. But we've got a full team and all the resources established, and so it's been happening, and it's happening fast, and it's really exciting.
Sorry, my puppy is gonna mess up all the wires here. There we go. Very cool, Chris. Thank you so much.
Good
And
segue, yeah.
thank you so. I'm sorry, man. I'm a new puppy dad, and it's the best thing in the world. And she still gets into everything.
Puppy ate my stash.
Yeah, yeah. But
I'm actually here in Ybor. I'm puppy sitting.
you're puppy sitting.
At a friend's house. Yeah, I was gonna join this this call today via like a Zoom style.
Yeah,
and
remote.
I
Coming
know-
to the studio.
I noticed you guys were here in Ybor. I'm like, man, I could be there in a few minutes. So happy I could join you guys.
You're like
Yeah,
just
I'm
blocks
glad to
away
have you.
from Licata's house. He was the guy who went crazy and had Harry Anslinger tell everybody that cannabis made everybody violent because he killed his parents with an axe.
Wow,
Couple blocks down,
never knew that
Yeah,
one.
Reefer Madness started right here.
Yeah,
Ybor City.
Reefer Madness started in Tampa.
where it all began.
Yeah, the first ever story about somebody going crazy off of marijuana was, of course, here in the middle of the crazies in Ybor.
The original Florida man.
Yeah, yeah, original Florida man, straight up.
Yeah.
You know what though? Reefer Madness has given cannabis a bad rap, over the last century, but people really do get healed by it. And your product, the magic butter machine, the magical butter machine is just so easy to use. And like when people approach me and like, oh, I got my mom's sick with cancer, and I'm like, look, I don't have the answers, but here is something that you could do at home that could really give you the opportunity to help. I've had people with like, hey, my wife's got terminal cancer. And I'm like, look, we may not be able to cure that, but here's something you can utilize, at home to give the relief. And the only drawback is that when you cook your plant matter in the machine, it gets funky. Like if you live in a block full of snitches, it ain't for you.
Well, yeah. Hopefully you got your med card. You won't really have to worry about that. But yeah, the it can get a little loud, the odor. But
I remember when my dad was sick, my grandmother walked in the house and I was cooking it with a magical butter machine, and she was like, oh my God.
yeah,
And I cooked it 2 days earlier, so it was still just marinating through the air.
yeah, you want to be in a well ventilated area, and definitely.
Personally, I like the smell.
I enjoy it. There's
Yeah.
ways to like sort of reduce the odor,
Uh-huh.
especially when you're decarboxylating. We have the decarb box, sort of contains it, and
I got
that's
mine. It's great.
that's a big part of the odor. But yeah, when you're dealing with these potent strains, man, the loud odor is inevitable.
Yeah, I really liked all the different accessories now though that folks can get with when it first started, it was kind of like on your own, and y'all have now made it to where it's a one-stop shop kit when you get your magical butter. There's so many different things you can do with edibles and
like magical butter, like I just want to point out that it's not just really like cannabis is a small part of what magical butter is. And like one of the testaments, like it really is about health and wellness and really bettering yourself. One of the testaments to that is your mushroom caps line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like honestly, like I'm happy you're here because like I've been getting your product through Green Lane, and I kind of want to carry your mushroom stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've expanded this year into functional mushroom powders. The name magical just leans itself so well to the magic of mushrooms. All mushrooms are magical, not just the psilocybin ones. So
you guys got like lion's mane,
turkey tail, reishi, chaga, and we have an immunity blend. And the idea there is to give people those mushroom powders, and they can incorporate that into their edibles and get some of those synergistic benefits from both.
Nice, very nice.
I'm a big fan of lion's mane right now, but I keep on forgetting to take it.
More lion's mane will help you remember.
Is that what it's for? Yeah, I guess so.
So that's like the circle that Gary's in. He needs a lion's mane to remember, but he keeps forgetting to take the lion's mane.
That's
Is that what's going on here?
You got that one down, Pat. That was amazing how we all
I'm
that.
piecing it together little by little.
Now, Gary, if you take a penis envy, you'll forget you're on Earth.
The
You have to say that in context, though, 'cause otherwise,
For those who don't know, penis envy is a potent hallucinogenic psilocybin strain.
I don't have that per se, but I've had that per se.
Well, it's interesting being up in DC. They've decriminalized mushrooms, and so you see the fusing of the cannabis culture now, or like any pop-up vendor will have mushrooms on the table now, and they've also decriminalized, DMT and peyote, and you don't see those things quite yet, but mushrooms are becoming more prevalent in the culture. I mean, they do help with depression if you're microdosing. They can make you feel, pretty good, and they can enhance your cannabis high too, which is interesting,
Yeah, no, the microdose is the goal there. I think, definitely taking heroic doses are good for different times of your life, but on a daily you can the goal is to take just enough to not really feel it.
Well,
0.3 grams approximately. Is that what the current gold standard is on that?
I think 0.1 is a true microdose, but yeah, 0.3 you could probably do that with really no little feeling there.
Which is really more cost economical for like depression than cannabis if you think about it, because you can get an eighth of mushrooms, an eighth of cannabis for about the same price, more or less.
Well, the other problem there is like, what's the alternative? And some people resort to maybe alcohol or pills if they're really dealing with depression in a real way. I've actually helped a friend recently. We made Stammet stacks where we've mixed the lion's mane with a small amount of psilocybin into a capsule, and he's taking those daily, and he's just feeling so much better and avoiding all the other things. So.
It's my understanding too that like the traditional avenues, like the real like ceremonial avenues of taking psilocybin, right? Hero's dose never really happens. Like it's always like a real respect for the mushroom, and they typically want you to take like small amounts in order to get the most out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could take 5 grams in absolute darkness on an empty stomach.
Yeah, and fucking flip out, man. This one time in college, I took mushrooms, and then I took my kayak and I put it in a pool, and I like had like such a good time for like maybe like 4 hours.
You just floated in the pool and
just floated, just like pretended I was in a river.
You should have took your kayak, flipped it upside down, swam underneath it, and you can hotbox it.
Now, I remember that time you took mushrooms at Third Eye Vibes and you chased a pig around like a field in Lakeland for like a half an hour.
No, that's
that was one scared pig.
That was like this pop-up sesh that was in like this ranch out in like the middle of nowhere, and it was the first time at a sesh that I bought some mushrooms and tried them. And like I was just like enjoying nature. It was like out in the middle of nowhere, and there was like this pond, and like me and my buddy were just like, wow, look how beautiful all this is. All of a sudden a pig just walks right up, like a pig like the size of this table.
A big piggy.
Now back in the 70s, the first time I went to Disneyland, I actually did the Space Mountain on mushrooms, stuff that I've grown from an ad in High Times. You can get a mason jar and you just put the medium in there and the spores and just grow it and all that bit. I mean, I never enjoyed that ride more that day than I ever have. I found out later on that it wasn't actually open that day, but I still had a damn good time.
Gary's just sitting on Space Mountain, not going anywhere. But he went somewhere. That's
like,
awesome.
And he never left his hotel.
That's a possibility.
It's like that time when I had just got off of rehab, from being court ordered, and you gave me that dab, and I drove home, and then I forgot my keys, and I came back to your house to get my keys, and you're like, well, how did you drive home then?
That's crazy.
Well,
that is the power of the medicine.
We're gonna have some more crazy good times at the Suncoast NORML Got Talent show. We might not be taking mushrooms and stuff, but
yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. I think I'm gonna be entering to perform.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about like your talent. Like, what's your special talent you plan on showcasing?
I like rap, man. I'm a little rap cat. So
you got some bars to spit.
Hip-hop.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna do a little can of butter whipping out there.
Okay.
Drop my track.
I made it like Matisse Yahoo. Kind of.
Yeah. Well, maybe not like that. Yeah.
I dig it. I dig it. I dig it. We're looking forward to hearing you spit some bars for sure.
Yeah, man, you're gonna have Tom G in the building.
Tom G is going to be one of our celebrity guest judges. We also have some other celebrity guest judges. We have Cassidy Johnson from In Touch News joining us, who hosts Karaoke with Cass on Fridays up at 5508. And then, of course, we have the Tampa Bay Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Ronnie Rios, going to be joining us as one of the guest judges.
Wow, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, and then, of course, our judges panel is rounded out by yours truly, CJ, right
Yo, here. I am the normal judge.
So
I will be judging your bars, bruh.
I'm gonna bring the fire. I'm gonna bring the fire.
And we got some other great talented acts. We got several artists entering into the show. So folks are going to be going head to head. The top three finalists with the top three scores at the end will advance to the finals and have the opportunity to compete for a cash prize. And Chris, Magical Butter, you all have been so kind as to donate MB machines to the finalists. So for those of you who make the cut in the finals, you have the opportunity to win a Magical Butter machine. That's fantastic, Chris.
Is the one with the galaxy on the outside? Because that's a really neat model.
Oh, you've seen that one, Gary?
Oh yeah, over at
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that was a custom, like, hand painted model. No, these will just be the brand new, Magical Butter machines.
Nice, very nice.
That's a good trophy, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's $30 to enter into the talent show to come home with the possibility of a cash prize, the Magical Butter machine. If you got the talent, if you got the chops, put your money where your mouth is. Come out and compete. But also tell your friends and family, look, all proceeds to the talent show go to the efforts to legalize it. And, if you didn't catch the Fox News story that we had this week, the main thing that is stopping legalization in Florida is finances. So many of the ballot initiatives that have tried to be successful here in Florida just don't have the finances to mount a successful effort to get over 1 million petitions signed and verified. I was on the petition collection phase for United for Care. I was actually on staff, and I can tell you in 2015, I mean, being out in front of Comic-Con for 16 hours, hustling 2-3 days in a row, being out here in Ybor every evening, walking the block up and down, making sure folks even got to be registered to vote to sign a petition, so you got to get out there and hustle. And then, there's other folks who are private contractors getting paid to get petitions. So, I would have this one homeless guy in front of the courthouse beef over turf with me. I'm trying to keep my job and get these petitions signed. I got a quota and he's getting paid for every petition that he's getting signed. So it was a wild time to get Amendment 2 on the ballot and to realize that John Morgan put up so much money to make that happen. And now you got a legislature that's actually passing laws to prevent people from John Morgan to even donate to campaigns like that, to limit the amount of contributions that citizens can give. But there's no end to the contributions from these special interests from the private prisons and the pharmaceutical industries bankrolling these politicians to where now we have a medical system where everybody can't get in. We got to have lawsuits and we got to go to court because they made it to way to, the guys who are writing them checks for re-election are the ones who, have a quick way in. And a lot of it is coming into this whole Matt Gaetz fiasco. Matt Gaetz is under investigation for soliciting sex from underage girls and paying for it on Venmo. And so through that, all his texts, all his emails and stuff, you see that he was heavily ingrained in getting the Compassionate Care Act passed here in Florida. And it was given a lot of inside access to other politicians throughout the process. And now the FBI is involved. And it's interesting to see how dirty Florida's politics are. And that's what the people are up against. They're up against a corrupt political system where there are forces that want to keep cannabis illegal, and they have way more money to throw at it than we could ever possibly mount up. So that's why it's so important for you people at home to do your part. Come to the talent showcase. I don't take a paycheck to be a part of this. Carlos has set up this amazing studio in his own business to support the cause. And none of us are taking paychecks to be a part of this. We want to make sure that all the money we get go back into the organization, go back into advocacy and education efforts, because we have to if we're going to actually see any public policy changes in this country.
In case Gary hasn't told you lately, he doesn't get paid either.
Yeah, I don't get paid. I get paid in karma, but the gods are not kind right now. Let's put it that way. But we survive. But what is kind of interesting, though, is that if you wanted to get your record expunged here in Florida, you got to pay upwards of around $2,500 approximately, correct?
I mean, if you can do the paperwork yourself, you can go down to the courthouse and probably get it done for like 75. But if you don't dot an I right across a T right, if you're not someone who's used to doing government paperwork on a regular basis, that can be intimidating to have to fill out so many pages of paperwork, and one little mess up can mean your record, doesn't get expunged.
I think that a portion of every expungement fee should go towards a ballot initiative. Wouldn't that make sense?
That'd be cool.
I dig it. New Jersey just expunged 88,000 records. This month.
Illinois did 111,000 now.
Yeah. So and this new act that Chuck Schumer, Cory Booker, Ron Wyden are planning on introducing in September is supposed to vacate within a year any federal nonviolent cannabis charges. But if you got federal cannabis charges, I mean, they were looking to get you because
and they got the RICO law stuck in there too.
Yeah. So it's kind of a catch-22. Oh, look, we'll expunge you, but are you really? Do you really meet the cut? Just like, can you really meet the cut to become a dispensary owner in Florida without owning, a few senators?
Right. You can't.
No.
Hey guys, guess what time it is?
Uh-oh.
It's time for the news with Gary Stein.
I will pay you to change the name of that spot. I've got at least $5 on me.
For those of you not watching the video,
come up with a new name.
Gary's segment is called the G Spot.
I'll throw in a pre-roll. Honestly. All right. Well, let's go international.
I thought you liked the name.
I'll go on to the news. Let's go international for a while. Mexico has really been working on changing things. In 1920, they were the first country to make cannabis illegal. And they just recently, in the Supreme Court, which is good because the legislator failed to come to a conclusion, but the Supreme Court of Mexico came to the conclusion that original law was unconstitutional. And they went even farther to say that cannabis access is a human right.
Oh, there's a victory for freedom right there.
And that from the country that made cannabis illegal in the first place. And so they're moving on from there. The president of Mexico was on the rail, but seeing what the Supreme Court did and how everybody else was interested in it, they're moving forward now. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I wish we could kind of like learn from our neighbors from the South, not just put a wall up between us and them.
Gary, I had an opportunity to speak with a senator from Mexico who had actually sponsored their medical marijuana bill. And, a little bit of a language barrier. I'm like Carlos here. I'm very comfortable with speaking.
Oh, he didn't speak Spanish?
I used my Google Translate to talk to her, and she looked at me like, that don't shake out. But all in all, I asked her, I was like, if we really wanted to see real cooperation between Mexico and the United States, legalization should happen in both countries because that will cut down on cartel profits. That would allow, businesses in both countries, small businesses to thrive, and I just thought that it made sense. And it seemed like I was almost speaking Greek. Like, no, we kind of like the status quo in the drug war. We're just going to just pivot a little bit and not incorporate regular people into it. It really kind of broke my heart to not see more enthusiasm for legalization.
Well, the drug war was the impetus for moving this forward. Too many people have died in regards to the violent cartels and the way they go after each other and things of that sort. And so Mexico said, we've had enough of it. Just like Canada had said that they were going to go with full adult use to reduce the size of the legacy market in the hopes that they could get a better product.
Which is far from where the Philippines is right now. Their president said, if you smoke weed, you deserve to die.
Duarte loves hanging people. Then they,
that's crazy, right? He's like, if they kill you in the streets, it's good. One less pothead. Like, wow.
Those like East Asian countries, like I would be scared to go any of them with a little bit of weed. Like I hear you can get like 10 years in some of them for that shit.
I wonder if he knows Manny Pacquiao smokes reefer. I don't think he's going to talk that shit to Manny. That's what I'm just saying. Manny Pacquiao for president of the Philippines, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I was going to go over the Schumer bill because this hit the first draft anyway this last Wednesday, and people have gotten very excited about the possibility of actually getting cannabis descheduled, not rescheduled.
That's the goal right there. It should not be a controlled substance. Should be like tomatoes. Grow it in your backyard.
But interestingly enough, they're still going to allow the states to go ahead and preempt if they wish. And that's its problem when we have people like Governor Christie Noem, who insists, even when the people have voted for a ballot initiative that won, that she pulls it back.
I mean, we have states like Idaho that doesn't seem to be moving anywhere. Like they're just intransigent. So
Idaho is still right there,
too.
and obviously
Kansas,
Iowa,
South Carolina,
Nebraska. Actually, Nebraska and Idaho are the only ones that have not even a medical program or a CBD program. Even though CBD, for hemp is still illegal worldwide, but we now have the Farm Bill, which makes it fully legal over here.
Well, I think hemp products themselves, I mean, you see it here, at Carlos's shop. The fact that you can come in and get relief, right? I mean, I've seen it with your pet products, work for my pet. So I just think that if there's a product that is available that's helping people, why is it illegal? And it really does go back to money. Like I was saying earlier, why we're even having to have a fundraiser in the first place. It's like, it seems like the drugs that are beneficial to people, you're not paying taxes on. And that's why the government wants to come after people for it. Mushrooms, cannabis, as Bill Hicks, the comedian, once said, the good drugs.
Right.
And then, of course, there's grant programs involved in this bill as well. It helps out people who have been socially and economically disadvantaged by the war on drugs. Because I think that's a huge, huge debt that this government created for their own people.
Well, didn't Chicago, Illinois this week, signed in an equity measure into law with their cannabis program? They're going to give out 100 new dispensary licenses in Illinois and actually make sure that many of those go to Black and Latino business owners.
And that has already been challenged in court.
Of course.
Because people from out of state have said that they're cutting off equal access to the market because people out of state can't get access to that money for social equity that people in state can.
But here in Florida, you had to have a nursery license for 30 years to originally get in.
Originally,
did you see,
yes.
What Georgia's doing with their program?
No, tell us more about Georgia.
I just spoke to my friend Stanley, the Canna Medic. He gave me an update. They've got a limited amount of licenses, and their program is very small, but they've got a bill written in where as they get more patients into the program, they're going to open up more available licenses.
Okay.
Kind of like what we did. And there is actually a drum roll right now because the first list of people who are getting their licenses is about to come out in Georgia. So people are getting very excited about that.
So here in Florida, they're supposed to dish out 15 new licenses. Is that what they're behind? Yeah. According to statute, they're at the legislature. So the Department of Health's out of compliance with the legislature.
That's right. According to statute, we are 15 dispensary licenses short right now based on the number of people we have. But the Department of Health, in their infinite wisdom, has said, okay, we're going to get started on the application process. They've been waiting for 5 years, about time. But the first one we're going to give out is the Pigford license.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the only problem with that is the Pigford license is being challenged.
So
until that thing loses its challenge, they're not going to be able to finish getting out that Pigford license as the first license.
And then the DeSantis administration is held up granting them because of the floor grown case was their original excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
And now they have another case with the Pigford
fallback
challenge. Wow.
It's not unusual for our legislation here to be affected by people suing the state. I mean, a lot of the bad license bills from the last S1 and HB1 have already been challenged in court. That $3,000 anti-John Morgan bill has been challenged in court, so therefore that $3,000 limit is still not in place yet.
Sure. But, Regulate Florida was challenged in court and struck down. Make it legal Florida was challenged in court and struck down. Flora grown challenged and struck down. So it seems like the DeSantis administration packing the Supreme Court had real consequences. So, I always say elections matter. And I don't like to get into partisan politics, but you have to support the politicians that are supporting you. And currently, Ron DeSantis is not one of those people.
No, not at all. And I think if we want to move forward, we have to find somebody who is willing to do that. Now, grant you, the first several years of the program, we had Rick Scott, the guy who looks kind of like Earthworm Jim. But what I found interesting is that he has this amazing hankering for donut shops. He has a big thing about donut shops because his mother owned a donut shop. Oh. And that was the first foray into business before he got that huge hospital business that had the largest Medicaid fraud suit ever filed in the state of Florida. So he went from donuts to that.
When his company defrauded the government for more money than in the history of Medicaid, he pled the fifth like 70 times.
Yep. But here's the deal.
It's like a Dave Chappelle skit gone wrong.
I say we all go out for donuts after this.
Yeah, that's right. Hole in one donuts is a good place. But here's the deal for our former governor, now Senator Rick Scott. If it weren't for cannabis, you'd be selling a lot more donuts. I mean, when you have a 24-hour donut place, not only are the cops there, but also the people who have been medicating that night, because it's the perfect way to handle things. So if you want a more successful donut shop, pass that cannabis legislation.
I think we should have an edible donut shop. Like, I would love to see like a magical butter donut shop, like 24 hours, just set up here in Ybor. You know, it doesn't even have to be a shop. It could be like a donut like vending machine, you know? That would be awesome.
Yeah, you have to have that prepackaged stuff, you know? But,
that sounds good.
I like donuts.
no,
Well, Carlos, you're a vegan, and you put me on the game. You're like, hey, you know, you could eat donuts as a vegan. I was like, what? Like, yeah, donuts are on the menu.
as long as they're not made with lard, yeah. Right? And I have used the magic butter machine now for my brownies and for my cookies and for my peppermint bark. That worked out well. Although peppermint bark with RSO on it is good too, but that's just, you know, a snack. But the whole idea is that it's amazing how versatile you can get with this product, and not just, again, making extractions of cannabis, but also hemp and other herbs as well.
Man,
and mushrooms.
You got to pace yourself, though. If you make RSO with a magical butter, like that much is the most. One time I took like that much, and I'm not subscribing to cannabis hypermesis syndrome as a reality, but if you eat Taco Bell the night before it, and then you decide to pop some RSO, your immune system is going to be like, get that poison out of you.
I don't think the RSO is the problem there.
Yeah, it's the poison in the Taco Bell, you know?
They call it meat, but, you know, a vegan could easily eat it and not be upset.
That's the thing about cannabis is medicine. It regulates the immune system. So, like, if you've poisoned yourself, if you've overeaten and ate bad stuff, it's going to ask it to come back up. That's just part of your immune system trying to heal your body, you know? And these doctors out there creating a second reefer madness around, oh, people are in the ER just throwing up. I'm like, yeah, because people get the munchies and eat shit food in America. It's not like we're getting the munchies and making fresh vegetarian, you know, like Indian cuisine together.
This news segment has made me so hungry. I can't stop thinking about food.
Speaking
Holy
of
shit.
vegetables, you know, when we first got that flower bill, put through, there was a little clause that said by July of 2021, you have to come up with a new consent form that you have to get at the doctor's office before you actually get a recommendation for flower. Now, this was after we had been pushing to stop saying the word smokable when it came to the flower and say whole flower, because smoking is not the only thing you can do with flower.
You can vape it. You can put it in a magical butter machine and make edibles and all kind of oils.
But to continue that line, this new consent form came up, and some interesting things came up on it. It was written partially by the Board of Medicine, Board of Osteopathic Medicine, with some input from some of the cannabis doctors in the state. But one of the big things it has is that you have to tell people not only that the product itself is dangerous, but also that you should not be smoking cannabis around an oxygen tank. That is put there where everybody has to see that before they get a recommendation for flower. Now, guys, I mean, have you ever seen on a cigarette pack it says, do not use near oxygen tanks? I think it's kind of like a given, wouldn't you say?
Makes sense. So,
or do you think that stoners are so hard off that they have no idea where they are and they're going to grab an oxygen tank and smoke right next to it after they get high?
I'm just saying is that if you're like a cancer patient with emphysema, you know, maybe you should be smoking. Yeah, you should be smoking, period. Especially not if you're on oxygen, but you're just a hard-headed human being at that point. Who's going to stop you anyways?
I mean, I used to go into the Hard Rock and there's a smoking section there.
But let's go back, you dwell on your point for a second, Gary. Is the Board of Medicine that dense to think that a human being who's already terminally ill and utilizing cannabis while they got oxygen on gives two shits about their little piece of paper? You know,
they also still believe that you shouldn't have a recommendation for cannabis unless you are already deemed terminal.
That's a shame, because cannabis should not be a last resort. It should be a first option.
Not only that, but by the time you're deemed terminal, it's very possible that no curative measure will be helpful at that point in time.
Yeah.
If you want to cure cancer, you've got to do it early. not at the very latest point.
Yeah, if you want to stave off Alzheimer's and dementia, you got to catch that shit early. Like I saw it with my dad. Those are deteriorating illnesses. At a certain point, you're just doing palliative care.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking because you think, you see people who catch it early and have turnarounds. People like Tommy Chong who've beaten cancer with it. And you're like, wow, yeah, really, you have that hope. And then you realize at best, you're just making sure those last few days are painless.
Yeah. Well, this intent form goes from the bizarre like that to the outrageous, where they talk about the fact that the customer should always check their product for mold. The question is, why the heck should it get to the customer in the first place? That's one thing.
Why do I have moldy weed
They shouldn't be selling it
from a state-regulated facility?
That is just it. I mean, don't we pay them to regulate so that a product never leaves the companies without being totally sterile and safe? I mean, the average person, if they saw mold on, say, for instance, a cookie that they bought somewhere at some facility, or flour, they might not recognize what it is. I mean, you're talking about little tiny white strands. Could easily be
crystals.
Yeah, it could be crystals. It could be over trichome, this kind of situation, or it could be the fly webs, those kind of things that sometimes occur with some of the insect life.
Gary, to your point, if a legacy market dealer try to put some boof on you and be like, "Oh yeah, look, it's that fire. Look at all that white crystals on it," I'm like, dude, that's mold. That's mold. And I'm not going to buy that.
And if you buy a bud and you can crush it in your hand, that's hollow on the inside. That's been affected by powdery mildew. But how would the average person even know that? How do they know what to look like? And most likely, you haven't got a microscope at home. So if there is mold spores in your flour, there's no way in hell you'd be able to tell.
So who's tasked under current statute with regulating that on the back end? Is it the Department of Health? Is it the Department of Agriculture? Who is supposed to be keeping these MMTCs in check in regards to putting out quality medicine?
On the hemp side, it's the Department of Agriculture. On the other side, it's the OMMU, who has to have the charge of regulating the MMTCs.
So the Department of Health seems to be doing a piss poor job compared to what Nikki Freed's doing, because Department of Ag regulates your shit, right, Carlos?
They came by like 2 weeks ago, and we're looking for some products that had harmful chemicals in them.
There you go.
Have you had your shit regulated? You know how painful that can be.
And let me just say, like, the Department of Agriculture, it's like the first time I heard of it. If we had that product on our shelf, they would have bought the product. Like, it would have been at no loss to us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, like, the Department of Agriculture is doing a hell of a job, really caring about like small business here in Florida.
Well, shout out to Nikki Freed for getting her agency on point. Ron DeSantis, what the hell are you doing with the Department of Health, my friend?
You should totally vote for Nikki Freed for governor to replace Ron DeSantis. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
My own personal opinion there.
Now, in the same line with that same language they got for the intent form, they also said that all doctors from now on must totally list all mental illnesses that the patient has in the records. You have to go ahead and go through that and catalog all that.
It seems like that almost is like trying to put a paper trail on the recommending physician. If someone were to, for example, have a history of depression and at some point were to take their own life, they would claim, "Oh, well, you subscribe weed to them. This is your fault." It seems like a catch-22. It feels like a setup.
It does, and they're still making things harder on doctors by only having those 10 diagnoses that you could possibly use for the recommendation. The last two being one of a non-malignant pain that is associated with something else, or a disease of like or similar nature. They have to go ahead and interpret that.
Mm-hmm.
If they interpret it different from the BOM interprets it, they could possibly yank their license.
That's the qualifying condition list is so unconstitutional, in my opinion. Everyone should have access to cannabis, just for general wellness, happiness.
You go to Oklahoma, and the rule is that if a doctor feels you need cannabis, you get it. That's essentially the entire rule.
That sounds like a great rule.
If the doctor knows about the endocannabinoid system, then they should realize that you probably should use cannabis.
That's right. So right now there's a lot of onus on the doctor, not only for that, but also for the education of the patient.
Mm-hmm.
But what my concern is right now is that once the patient leaves the doctor's office and they go to the MMTC to fill that recommendation, can that MMTC actually fulfill that recommendation the way the doctor had considered it? Like, for instance, and I swear to God, this is true. I went into an MMTC, and I heard this one lady ask, "What strain do you have? Is that strain there good for migraines?" And The guy said, I don't know, I haven't tried it yet. She says, oh, do you have migraines too? She says, no, I just haven't tried it yet. I mean, we're not asking the
I laugh, but it's not funny. It's yeah, you know, it's also the way they set up the system where anybody who works from MTC has to pass a level 2 background check. So if you have a history of cannabis use in the legacy market and you happen to have got, you know, stung for it, that's going to preclude you from being in this legal market. And it's like we just talked about the piss poor quality of some of the grows that we're seeing with powdery mildew and subpar medicine. And it seems like the best growers are going to be excluded here in Florida from being a part of it. They're going to have to go to other states like Oklahoma that have more liberal laws. And it's funny to say Oklahoma is more liberal than Florida. Like just to hear that
is
in
bizarre.
A sentence. Yeah.
That's pseudo world. That's what that is.
Free Joe Exotic.
Their program is really impressive.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
And we hope that other people will go ahead and bring in some of the things that they had. I used part of their list for that bill that I have for this next session to expand the number of qualifying conditions to about 35 of them. That includes everything, including opioid abuse and autism and things that are not included right now. That would really cause a lot of mental gymnastics for the doctor to actually recommend for it because it's not on the list. But we already know through research and everything else that these products work for those particular conditions. Mm-hmm. And that is where we stand on things. But here's my concern is we already know that less than 55% of all bud tenders have any kind of training whatsoever other than how to build a sale. Mm. So if a doctor says you need to get this particular strain with this particular amount of linalool, this particular amount of THC, this particular CBD, CBG, CBN, and then you go and take that to the NMTC and they say, we don't know what the hell you mean by this, but we'll find something for you. So, and what they usually give you is the one that the strain that just got dropped last.
So doctors can literally create a craft treatment plan for a patient, utilizing what cannabinoids can treat their system. To Chris's point earlier, if that doctor is educated on the endocannabinoid system, and then there's a disconnect on the front of the house staff at an MMTC because, like as you said, there's no formal training program, no formal licensing. It's just, can you pass the background check and do you look like you can work in an Apple store?
That's right. And even as far as the doctors is concerned, you know, the only test they have to take is on the rules and regulations. It's not on the plant itself. That they used to be that way at the very beginning, but it's not anymore. So the question is, how much are they educated, and how much do they care about what happens to the patient once they leave their office? I mean, I did talk to one doctor who said, why would I even bother doing that in regards to recommending a specific strain or family of strains if the MMTC won't have it, or if they do, they'll try to steer you someplace else. So why even bother? So that who wins there? Nobody. That's what it comes down to. So I'm working on a bill to certify bud tenders, and I only hope that they also bring it into the fact that those people who are doing the packaging and things of that sort know how to recognize mold and know how to throw up those red flags. Sometimes they do. I mean, I know that Sotero, a couple of places, had to throw out entire strains, entire harvest, because it was Granddaddy Perp. They had to throw it out, and they had to buy new stuff from I think it was AltMed Move to go ahead and cover that. And tons of products have been done that for failed crops.
You know, in my experience, I think some of the current dispensaries are doing a good job. The staff, they're doing the best they can. You know, and I've been to all of them, and a lot of times the staff is pretty knowledgeable, and they're offering up more information than you actually even maybe want at that moment. And so they're doing the best they can. But that I like where you're going with that. You know, trying to, you know,
let's even the playing field.
That.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a crapshoot if you got somebody who's knowledgeable versus somebody who just wants to make certain that they sell $100 when you walk in the door.
Well, there's also the level of professionalism in the industry that's important, you know, professional standards and such. And part of discrediting the legal industry from, you know, politicians who want to keep prohibition intact is always to go after, you know, the people that you see. You know, there's this stereotype that a bud tender is a white dude with dreadlocks who, you know, is like, yeah, bro, this is the best thing out there. And that stereotype exists out there in the ether. And it's constantly brought up time and time again. I mean, we saw it with the reefer madness experts from Harvard that the legislature brought in this past year to validate THC caps. And that in itself just mind-boggling.
I mean, for me, I don't think those stereotypes are true nowadays. Like, I go in these places and, you see a whole variety of people, all ages, all types. And, so yeah, they are trying to push that narrative maybe, but it's not that way. You'd be pleasantly surprised if you've never experienced, the REITs. It's not perfect. Our program's not perfect, right? And none of them are really there. I mean, I think federal legalization needs to happen. The descheduling needs to happen.
Exactly.
And everyone's trying their best to figure this stuff out. And based on where they came from or what, exposure they've had to cannabis in their life, they have a different stance on it. And once you start looking at the science and you meet somebody who's been positively affected because they're dealing with such a terrible illness, it's like, it's really hard for you to deny that person, once you start looking at it and like ignoring the propaganda and really looking at what's going on. That's like
the first time I saw Giselle's son Bruno have a seizure, and it just so happened I had some RSO on me, and to see it stop, and it's like, wow, just like that. But how many times out there's a kid having that, and they're at school, the school nurse, and that there may not be a policy in place. They may live in a state where, they can only get that access at home, so access continues to be the issue. And I think you hit on the head. The federal government's prohibition is the first hurdle to access in this country. I mean, Gary, to your point earlier about other states still keeping it illegal, at least that would give people an American option to be able to figure out what states, maybe if you're sick, you shouldn't, be in.
And less chance of worrying about when you cross interstate lines, whether you're going to get caught with something. If you have your medicine in your hand that you need for the length of your trip. We have nothing like that in Florida. We don't have reciprocity. If you have another med card from another state, and you come to Florida, you cannot buy, you cannot use, you cannot possess, period.
I still think Disney arresting grandmothers for having CBD vape pens is ludicrous. That doesn't make any sense to me.
But it's a microcosm of the whole. I mean, that is basically the whole thought pattern for a lot of folks. And we got to change that. We got to change a lot of things. We got to change the business aspect of cannabis.
Sound like Tupac.
Yeah, we got to start making some changes.
Change the way we eat. Change the way we treat each other.
Yeah,
you're right.
Absolutely. In regards to change, there's been change at the federal level through some, the Cannabis Caucus and other key senators and representatives through the years, to where they've been putting these little riders in the budget that say the Department of Justice can't spend our tax dollars to raid, dispensaries in legal states. And that actually amendment was refiled just on Friday. And so, if you all are interested in sending a message to your member of Congress, take a look at this link here and sign the letter. Send your member of Congress an email and let them know to vote for the McClintock, Blumenauer, Lee, Nelson amendment. These. Look, basically, it's an amendment sponsored by a lot of politicians to say, just let's stop wasting our tax dollars with prohibition. And I think it's happened every year since 2014, and it's definitely high time that that this becomes a regular staple in the United States budget. I mean, we shouldn't be wasting federal tax dollars, in states that have legalized it.
Absolutely, and we need to get more people on board in Congress. I mean, Schumer's got a great plan here, but when it comes up in November and everybody on one side of the aisle says absolutely no, whether they believe it or not, and the other one says yes, that doesn't make any sense. So you need to go ahead and get everybody on board and knowledgeable, and not just following the status quo, because otherwise it'll never pass. It'll be just one more bill that's stopped by the filibuster or anything else.
Yeah, that would really upset me to see, all the great progress be hemmed up by parliamentary procedure. Like finally we're in a space in this country where there are enough politicians in favor. I mean, the vice president of the United States, who's the deciding vote in the Senate, smoked a lot of reefer in college at Howard University, I feel as though like the karma that so many of these politicians have out there, and how they originally got their bones in their careers as prosecutors, or keep supporting the prohibition. Now they're in the space to actually go back to embracing their roots, if you will, and do something about it.
And I've been with congressmen and other various levels of government where the R's have no problem utilizing the plant any more than the D's do. There really is no different outside of there. I know a lot of ours in Florida as far as state legislators.
What about
whose names I'm not going to mention?
What about
so don't threaten my cats, okay?
What about the veterans, Gary?
Yeah, the veterans.
That's who needs cannabis.
Yeah.
And the D's and the R's support veterans.
Absolutely.
And that's the key part of the bill, Chris. Yeah.
So like I look at Canada where the veterans are getting support from their VA program. They get their cannabis paid for monthly. And you know, that maybe that situation is not perfect, but at least they have access and an option instead of like, you know, all the pills and the different things. The reason I bring it up, I was just out here last night speaking to a veteran and he was, you know, talking about that and how it's challenging for him,
Yeah,
you know, still here in Florida. So,
well, the VA in certain aspects are loosening up on their standards in regards to allowing the vets to go ahead and use cannabis, and then they won't lose their insurance benefits, you know.
well, you know, for a lot of veterans, it's an issue. There are some vets that were dishonorably discharged for cannabis use. And that in itself is something that should be rectified. I mean, people should have their full military honors. Cannabis use in itself is you know, it's legit medical treatment, and you know, even other countries have, you know, developed it to where, like the Israelis, as long as you're on reserve duty, you can use cannabis. You know,
yeah.
as long as you're not on active duty having to shoot people. You know, I mean, and you got to think, if you're on active duty and you have to make those life-changing decisions, those decisions stick with you. You're going to have anxiety. You're going to have flashbacks. You're going to have second guess yourself. And cannabis is something that can help you get through that.
if you're using cannabis, generally you probably don't want to shoot nobody. It makes you feel very peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although they do have field medic kits that have cannabis in them for the Israeli soldiers, so if they get injured, they can reduce the amount of inflammation, so they can heal faster.
I'm looking forward to your guys' talent show, man. I'm so stoked on that.
Man, the talent show in itself, you know, it came about an idea. We thought, how can we raise money to really push the legalization movement forward? How can we really take this to the next level? Because since 2014, we've been pushing here with a NORML chapter on the west coast of Florida. You know, when we originally started Central Florida NORML, we rebranded as Suncoast NORML. And I mean, we've come a long way from flying a giant blunt in the Temple Terrace parade with a magic butter limo, right?
Yeah, the mayor loves that one.
You know, to where, no, like we take education very serious. You know, we understand that there is some shock value and sometimes getting in people's faces, but the truth is that it's like you said earlier, Chris, it's one-on-one conversations and seeing the human element and seeing people really live a healthy and well life. And that's always been the message we wanted to get out there to folks. Is like, cannabis heals. It shouldn't be illegal. And we're willing to put, you know, we got 3 master's degrees sitting here, you know, between the 3 of us on this board, willing to leverage all that talent, knowledge, and ability to push this over the top, because it's an injustice that can't continue to happen. You know, people getting arrested just for wanting to live healthy lives. People getting arrested because, you know, you're sitting in your car, bothering nobody, smoking a joint, and then you get a knock on your window by the police. That shouldn't result in you having a bad day.
Well, this is where I keep old hemp roll tubes in my car. So if ever I get stopped, I'll say, "Yeah, this is it." They go, "Oh, it's CBD." I say, "Well, okay, all right. Go on your way."
Well, you know,
I hope the cop pulling you over isn't watching right now.
No, he isn't. He's home stoned, actually.
Well, you know, some of these Delta 8 flowers, I remember, you know, Carlos, you supplied the Delta 8 flower for the best blunt debate competition. That stuff smells great. Yeah. And the Delta 8 dabs, they make you feel great. You know, you
should try a Delta 10 dab before you leave. We should do some Delta 10 dabs all around.
You know, before we get into the Delta 10s, Delta 8, you're actually going to be set up with a table over at the Crowbar at the talent show, so folks can check out some of the amazing hemp products that you have. Chris, Magic Butter is going to have a space over set up, so folks can come check out, you know, learn what the machine's all about, learn all the great things that y'all are doing in the community. So I'm really excited for this talent show. We also got some musical artists that'll be joining us, not just talent entries. You know, we have Jessica Rose, who is an amazing singer. I mean, she's performed at 2 of the Spring Leaf Freedom Festivals that we've held.
She's been supporting us forever.
Since Jump Street.
Yeah, amazing having her.
And then, you know, we got the Sunsetters, who performed at the Spliff back in 2015. So I'm happy to have them a part of the talent showcase to perform. And then you got Varian, who, you know, has an amazing following, and as just a musical artist, so
that's
different.
A platinum recording artist right there.
We're gonna have a great time. I listened to some of the video game tracks that and anime tracks that she's got on her Insta, and I was like, oh, this is hot fire. So
I spit that
I wonder
hot
if she's
fire.
over at MetroCon this week. This is MetroCon over in Tampa this week. It's the biggest anime convention across the country. And you see some really weird people there.
Eccentric, we're everybody's a little bit different. Lifestyles here in America, people have been able to really, with the advent of the internet, connect with like-minded people and find their own niche to where, there's a whole furry community. I remember
Let's not get into furries. That's a little
one year we did the Pride Parade, and there was the folks behind us who like to wear leather and dress up like dogs.
Yeah.
And I saw a lady with three breasts walking one of those guys down the street the other day.
Very specific. It wasn't like a typical furry. It was like leather dog.
Leather dogs.
Yeah.
So people have really been able to embrace their own lifestyle, and Tampa really is a cultural center. I've pitched Tampa as a city to the League of United Latin American Citizens for their national convention. Tampa with its convention center has been the site of we had the RNC here. So this really is a convention town. There really is, here in Ybor City, it's so much culture. So much, just the fact that Carlos has a shop right here on 7th Avenue. If you had told me that 10 years ago, hey, you're gonna be able to set up and sell flowers right here that smell dank and have dabs, and it's like, what?
Next week I have
what
one.
are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What kind of
I have
stoner
to
pipe
sell
dream
it
is
in the
this?
back alley, actually, sir.
How do the folks in Temple Terrace feel about the number of smoke shops in that area? They never really liked us per se.
I don't know, but when I lived in that area, I always felt a lot of the smoke shops were overpriced, and they had subpar glass. Carlos has an amazing
They have to pay
selection
off the
down
Temple
here.
Terrace cops.
Oh, stop! You don't have to keep.
Oh,
on
no, I don't-
buttering me up here.
I don't butter y'all up. Like that's the cool part about the people we work with. You sell amazing products here. You got Chris and Magical Butter produce an amazing product. It's sitting there on the shelf.
Yeah, that's why I carry it.
Yeah. So only to find its quality. Unfortunately, Gary had some bad weed back in the 80s that left him with some debilitating conditions.
Yep.
And that just goes back to, we should, not have these dangerous chemicals being allowed to be sprayed on any crop. It gets into our water supply, causes all kind of effects down the road. And so, right now it's also, people are really scared. We're still in the pandemic. Numbers are climbing. People are the level of distrust that people have in the government is well founded in a lot of cases, but at the same time, you got to protect your family. Looking at these numbers and seeing how, I just lost my cousin 3 weeks ago to COVID.
Sorry.
And we thought she beat it. We thought she got out the hospital and then she had to go back in. She couldn't breathe. She had underlying conditions with her rheumatoid arthritis and being in her, in her 60s. But it's rough to see, your loved ones gone and then see this level of misinformation is just trust, but it's well earned. The FDA as a regulatory agency to sit up there for so many years and say, oh, weed is bad for you. This is your brain. This is your brain when you smoke reefer and it's a fried egg. And it's like, no, that's not how your brain feels when you get high, So, we got a lot of ways to go. And being a part of this talent show is a way that anybody can contribute. If you
typically at this point we'd ask people to be members, but if you really want to support us, come out to the talent show and become a member there.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
And then where can they? How would someone become a member? They go to your website.
Why? Thank you, Chris. It's very nice of you to. I'm tangled in your cord. It's very nice of you to segue like that. But yeah, you would go to suncoastnormal.org and /membership, wherever. I'm trying to find the graphic. There's so many freaking things here. There you go. There you go. So you go to suncoastnormal.org /membership, or really what you should do is go to suncoastnormal.org and get tickets for the talent show.
That's right. Get your general admission tickets now.
Yeah, and you're gonna have opportunities.
Otherwise, you will forget
to support NORML. There, we're going to have a table set up with a bunch of memorabilia and T-shirts and pipes and papers and all that cool stuff. And you can become a member there. You can really feel what it's like to be a member and where your money actually goes when you become a member of NORML by coming to this show. So I think it's really important. Instead of just going and signing up online, come see what we're all about.
And this is not our first shindig. We've done several music festivals. This is the biggest one that we've had in regards to names and artists. And I'm really excited to see so many professional artists coming out and supporting the cause. We got Tom G coming through as a celebrity guest judge, having so many luminaries from the community, whether it's folks in the media or folks in sports entertainment. I'm really excited to see just the panel of judges and all the amazing talent that's going to be a part of the show.
And I'm excited for Magical Butter to be there.
Nice.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing Chris spit some bars.
Hey,
can you we are ending the show right now, Chris? But can we end on you making just a quick rhyme?
Quick rhyme, chilling with Gary Stein right now. Sunday, feeling fine. Make sure you come down to the NORML talent show.
Thank you, everybody. Love y'all.
I think we're going to get you